Well, good morning. Welcome to the forum.
Oh, it's like, I'm like a teacher now.
Good morning, class.
Good morning, Mr.
So, this morning we are fortunate to have a presentation by Lindsey Neff of the CMP Group on fraud and how to avoid fraud in small businesses. So, Lindsey?
Hello. So I work for CMP Protective and Investigative Group, a private investigative firm founded in 1999. And we see all sorts of investigations. And yes, we work in matrimonial, and yes, we do background and due diligence. But today I'm going to talk about small businesses. Now, I know from being part of Network for almost 4 years now that a lot of us are running small businesses. And unfortunately, that makes you an even bigger target for internal and external fraud. So we're going to talk about some ways how you can safeguard yourself before these things happen to you. Let me tell you from personal experience, it's much better for you if you run a background check and you do your due diligence beforehand rather than having to open up an entire investigation after the fact. All right. Oh, there's the shameless plug there. CMP Protective and Investigative Group. Okay, so first thing, when you're hiring somebody, in this day and age, I find it shocking, but I guess I'm a little bit biased working at a private investigative firm, that people don't perform background checks. When you're bringing someone in, especially in small business, it's all hands on deck. And a lot of times with small businesses, they read the resume, they like the resume, oh, the reference is checked out. I wish I had a dime for every time I've heard that. The reference is checked out. No one's gonna give bad references. I mean, I've yet to see anyone who gives a bad reference. In a background check, what we do, we're finders of the facts. We go through, we run criminal history, address history, and I'll go through that. But we identify what some red flags might be for you, things that you might want to know about. It's up to you, the business owner, what your decision is. So some of the red flags here. Okay. A lot of times we have to verify their identity. You wouldn't think that someone was trying to pass themselves off as someone else, but a lot of times they are. Credentials, licenses, if you're a private investigator, for instance, you have to be licensed by the state. If you're switching positions, going to another company, sometimes your licenses, your credentials, things might lapse, or maybe you never had them to begin with, or maybe they're revoked for some reason. It's good to know that going in. Of course, you want to see criminal history. But the thing about criminal history, just because someone has something, let's say, I don't know, driving under the influence, or they got into a domestic dispute, or maybe assault with someone, it doesn't necessarily disqualify them, but you might just want to know about that. And you also want to know, are they being forthcoming with that information? Credit report. A lot of people think when they hear credit report that we're just going to come in and we'll secretly run their credit score and find out, all their information. It's not like that. And I'll explain further what that means. Judgments and liens, once again, it may not be a disqualifying factor, but it is good to know if the person that you're hiring, say, to be your bookkeeper, is financially savvy and financially responsible. Sometimes if there's judgments and liens against them, it may not be the best choice. Their work history, and their DMV history. Again, it might not matter if they were driving under the influence or driving while intoxicated, but if they're going to be driving a company car and perhaps driving with clients, you might want to know if they have an issue with reckless driving or driving under the influence. So once again, when you pull a DMV history, it also verifies their identity. You get to see what they're like. Are they responsible? Do they have a lead foot? Do they have a history of driving under the influence? Has their license been suspended because of this? It's also, it's good to know in terms of if they're going to be driving a company fleet car. Judgments, liens, are they bankrupt? Are they litigious? Are they constantly suing their former employers for whatever? Doesn't matter. Is this going to be a liability? Is this going to be something that you're going to have to worry about? Do they have liens? If someone's saddled with liens and is filed for bankruptcy and say they work in the financial industry, you might not want to have that person, say, as your bookkeeper or as your maybe in-house financial advisor of some sort. You want to know that throughout their professional and personal life that they are reliable and dependable. And a lot of times that we consider those to be red flags, even with the downturn of the economy and in the recession. A lot of times it's now you look at it a little bit, not as harsh, but it still is a red flag, technically speaking. Criminal history. A lot of times when we work with a client for hiring, we will give them a proprietary form that they fill out. Have you ever been arrested? Have you ever been convicted of a crime? Where have you lived before? And the problem is, if you've been arrested for something, if you've been convicted of something, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't necessarily disqualify you. But if you're not forthcoming with that information, and if you try to hide it, and then it comes back on your background, and then now all of a sudden it's take the floor and let me try to explain why I lied about being a felon, probably not going to get the job. And if you wouldn't have ran that background check in the first place, you would have never known who you're hiring. So this could create problems for you going forward. Once again, it's better to be proactive than reactive. This is a good one. Are there any outstanding warrants? We actually had this happen quite a few times where we're running someone, they're hiring someone for, say, a CFO, and the person has an outstanding warrant for something. It doesn't matter. You should know if you have an outstanding warrant. And after that, obviously, the person was no longer a contender for that position. Violence, substance abuse, theft. You'd probably want to know if there's a history of that or if they're forthcoming with it. Are they trying to hide that from you? Once again, the credit report now. Is there a history of financial difficulties? Are they living beyond their means? We don't pull a credit score. Oh, they have a 700, they have a this, they have a that. We look to see, are they maxed out? Have they utilized 100% of their credit? Because that shows maybe a little bit of a desperation where they may want to, or not want to, but they may justify it to themselves. I'm only going to do it this one time. I'll pay them back. That's how it starts. It always starts very small, and then it snowballs from there. And before you know it, $20, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70,000 later, over 5 years, now we have a big problem. So a lot of times what employers should do is do these type of checks and see exactly who they're working with. As a background, we would never run these type of searches, like a credit report, for example, without the consent of the person that we're running on. You legally cannot do that as an employer. If somebody is opening and closing several accounts, we could see that they have accounts here, there, properties, things like that. But if all of a sudden they're opening and they're closing accounts in a rapid form, it shows that maybe if they're opening things that they're short on cash and now they're looking for some other way to survive. And it is sad, and yes, in economic times it is hard, but once again, if you are hiring someone to be part of your company and in their financial role especially, you want to see that the personal life and their professional life are both responsible. Credentials and licenses. We covered most of those. This is a big one. Did they graduate? A lot of times, people fudge their resumes and they say, oh, I was a manager for this, or I contributed to this deal and I was part of it. Yes. Or, I was in the forefront of this deal, but really you were just like in the back end and contributed to it. A lot of people lie about their education. And for some industries, it may not matter, but do you want to bring somebody in who is a liar? If they're going to lie about this, what else are they going to lie about? Do they have a bachelor's in science, or is it all just BS? I feel like I'm standing in front of this thing. Can you guys see it, sort of? A lot of times people will lie about, oh yes, I got my master's here, there, everywhere, but they haven't. They maybe attended for a semester, but then they dropped out and they decided it wasn't going to be good for them, so they decided to just put it on their resume and skip all the student loans. Work history, but they had great references. I'm going to create a wall of one-liners, and that's going to be on that wall. People always, their resume looks great. I called their references. They had nothing but nice things to say about them. Yeah. I'm not going to give you to my reference listed to a boss that maybe I stole something from, or that it ended in a sour way. No one's going to do that. I would like to see if somebody did that. If anybody has any personal stories about someone giving a bad reference on a resume and then you call, I'd really like to hear it. So what we could do in that case, or what you should do as the employer, you should actually go through the resume, confirm the duration, call HR. They will tell you that. Yes, they worked here for 3 years. Really, it says 10 years on their resume already. That's a red flag. Why are you lying about that? Just tell the truth. Okay. All right. Another portion of a background check that you may want to consider doing is the press side of things. This is more of an opinion, but we're finders of the facts. We go through and we'll issue you what we found in our searches. What have they been in the press? What have they said in the press? Are these statements going to come back? Are they going to reflect poorly on your company? We've had cases where somebody in a previous company has made statements and then they've tried to work for another company, especially now with marriage legalization, for LGBT. And they've said certain statements in the press, and now they're going to go for another job in another company, and some of the statements that they've made conflict with the statements or the purpose of the company that's hiring them, and it would be good to know what they're willing to say in a public forum, such as a newspaper. Once again, we would just furnish those type of things, and the employer has to decide if that's something that they can or be happy with and they can live with. Handing over the keys. A lot of times in small businesses, yes, the owner has the skeleton key and they write and they sign the checks, invoicing, payables, receivables. But in small businesses, a lot of times the owners or whoever, they get wrapped up and they hire one person to do all these things. So now the person, say a bookkeeper, is writing all the checks, they're invoicing everything, they're receiving the payments. These are where things go wrong. Nobody should have the skeleton key. Nobody should have the whole ring of keys. Instead, there should be a separation of duties. You have to, if there's going to be a payables, receivables, there should be a payables department, receivables department. If you're going to give someone check writing capabilities, there should be maybe something with 2 signatures as opposed to 1, where you have to sign off on it. People get themselves in a lot of trouble, and we'll go through the numbers in a little while, being too trusting. And it's sad because a lot of times the person that's going to stab you in the back is the person that's going to throw their arm around you. Please come in. Audits. Big fan of audits. I mean, a huge fan of audits. I should have worn my t-shirt today. You have to do an audit on your system. You have to get an outside third-party person, and it has to be random. You can't tell your bookkeeper that you're going to be doing this. And I'm glad there's not a lot of bookkeepers in the room. I don't think Sally would like me very much. You have to do this. You have to show them. You have to go through. You have to have them look at the books. Does everything check out with a fresh set of eyes? A lot of times what people will do is the bookkeeper, for example, and I know I'm picking on bookkeepers, but a lot of times this is where things go wrong. Everything will be fine. You'll have a dedicated, hardworking, loyal employee. Oh, she never takes vacations. He's always there when I need him. He comes early. He works late. You want to know why? Because he's paranoid. He doesn't want to leave. So a lot of times when you stumble upon these types of things as fraud in small business, it's because something catastrophic has happened. That bookkeeper, for example, say they got into a car accident. Now they're laid up in the hospital. Somebody new has to step in who hasn't seen this before, and they're looking at it and they're flipping through the pages and they're sweating bullets because they're hoping that they're wrong, but they're not. And that's when these things come up. And usually it takes 2 years to locate this type of fraud and wrongdoing in your business. And by that time, for a lot of businesses, it's too late. The family business culture. Small businesses, everybody, once again, it's all hands on deck. Everybody works together, they stay late. You go to the Christmas parties. I invited him to my son's bar mitzvah. And that's what it is. And everybody's very close-knit and they've worked together for a long time. The most loyal, trustworthy, dedicated, long-term employee is commonly the perpetrator. And that's the truth. So what does a fraudster look like anyways? I hate to bring, the battles of the sexes going on here, but we are going to go there. 67% of the time it's male. Now, there's all these other things that you could say, well, it's because they're higher up, or there's, equality in the workplace, but as of right now, 67% of these frauds are going to be committed by males. Oh no, the dollar signs are popping up now. $185,000 is the average median losses when it comes to a fraud committed by a male, compared to just $83,000 when it's committed by a woman. The average year of the tenure of the perpetrator is scary. So less than a year. Yeah, they're still learning the ropes of the business. Only 6.8, roughly 6% of people are going to commit a fraud in a small business. If they've been there 10 years, it'll be 25% of roughly. If they've been there, 5 to 10 years, 27-ish%. And 40% of the time, it's going to be someone that's been with the company for 1 to 5 years. It's a certain sweet spot. They learn the ropes. Maybe they're disgruntled. Maybe they're disenfranchised. Maybe they thought that they were going to get the benefits, or maybe they thought they were going to get that raise, or maybe they thought they'd move up in the company, but they didn't. It's that magic sweet spot, the 1 to 5 years that you need to worry about. And that's scary. And I saw a couple of eyebrows, and I saw a couple of these happen in the crowd, so I know I might be hitting a chord there. These are the people that you have to watch. And because at that time they've been ingrained with the company, they kind of know the ropes, but they're not really happy where they are maybe. A lot of these people that commit these frauds, they will find a way to justify it to themselves. I mean, heck, they have to look at themselves in the mirror and they have to go to sleep at night, so they will find a way to justify, I only did it because I'm in the middle of a divorce, my kid is sick, my parents are getting older, my house, I'm having issues with my house, we overextended our financial means, and now I'm drowning. So that's the 1 to 5 year mark that you have to watch. Now, we're just going to go back to the numbers real quick. So if you look over here, 10 plus years, 5 to 10 years, not that much, right? 25, I mean, if you call a quarter not of fraud committed by someone that's been with your company for 10 plus years, not so bad, but it's still sad. If you look over here, the amounts, can you guys see that? Okay, so the longer the tenure, the more harm the employee is likely to cause. So if someone's been with the company for less than a year, $51,000 is the average. 1 to 5 years, $100,000. I don't know, and I don't look at anybody's payroll here, and I don't know anything, but I know with our business, we're a small firm. We have 23 investigators that work, the president of the company and myself. If something happened over 1 to 5 years and we were to lose $100,000, that would be devastating to us. I mean, we might be able to bounce back, but my gosh, would it really hurt. 5 to 10 years, the average is $200,000. 10 plus years, somebody's been with the company. 10 plus years, I watched their kids grow up. I went to the bat mitzvahs. We had the holiday parties together. I've been good to you. $220,000 is the average. It's funny, I see a lot of smiles have gone. They have dissipated. Nobody is amused about this anymore. I'm glad you're all sitting down. The top 5 most common schemes for these fraudsters. For organizations under 100 employees, once again, we're talking about fraud in small business. Billing fraud. Once again, we're going back to bookkeepers, giving people check signing abilities, and accounts payables, accounts receivables, corruptions. A lot of times, they will work out deals where they will hire certain vendors and get a kickback from it. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not really right. Check tampering. This is a good one here. I like when clients say this. But we get the checks Xerox, and we get them, sent to us. And I looked at the checks myself. If you gave me, and I don't do this full time, I'm definitely not a fraudster full time. Give me 5 minutes in PowerPoint Word, and I'm pretty sure I could whip out a decent check, photocopy it a few times, and make it look like it's the real thing. We're not talking about criminal masterminds here. We're talking about people playing on your trust. And are you really going to be looking through your checks and looking for tiny little lines on that photocopy of a check that may have where they've pasted or copied or changed numbers and dates? You're not going to look for that. I mean, you should, but you're not going to, because we're all very busy. Skimming a little bit off the top, that's, that's a normal thing, especially in cash businesses. Oh, well, he said, we talked and he decided that he'll give us $20,000 in cash and he'll do it then. So the $20,000 was really $25,000, but he took a little bit off the top for his, time in the affair. Expense reimbursements is a big one. If you're traveling, a lot of times people will, in a company, pay for things on their own credit cards and just submit a form to the bookkeeper and say, oh yeah, I took out so-and-so and we went to Uncle Jack's Steakhouse and it was this much and here's the receipt for it. Oh, I kept the original, but here's the photocopy receipt. And they add a couple ones and zeros and switch things around, maybe move a decimal point, and they made $30, $40, $50, $100, $200, $500, $1,000, and it just snowballs. They get away with the $20, so they say, why not try the $100? Why not try the $500? Why not try the $1,000? Let's see how far we can go with this thing. Now, at CMP Group, a large portion of our business is the matrimonial field. We work with a lot of cheating spouses, child custody cases, and it's devastating to go through these cases. But it's also very devastating when your partner and your business partner is cheating on you. I could imagine. I have never had either one, as far as I know. I've only been married for a few years. Happen. Yeah. Well, good. I finally got a chuckle out of you. So the cheating partner is a big deal. This can be devastating. A lot of times with small businesses, these are family members. It's my nephew, it's my brother, it's my son, it's my daughter, it's my wife even sometimes. Those are the tricky ones when they both fall into the cheating partner for both, the business investigations and the infidelity investigations. That's a tricky one. Cheating partner. This gets very hairy. Are they cheating you or are they cheating on you or both? So a couple of case studies here. This also is going to go on my wall of one-liners, right around with, oh, but they had good references. Number 2. So I said to him, you handle the finances. It's not my thing. I'm not good at it. No, worst thing to say ever to your partner. We had a case recently. So 2 partners, not going to say the name of the business or the industry even, but just imagine 2 partners. So you have one who's out in the field and he's closing the sales and he's always out. He doesn't want to do the office stuff. He doesn't want to do any of the tax forms or payroll or any of that stuff. So he says, you handle the finances. It's not my thing. That's fine. So the very successful company, been in business for 20 years together. These guys went to school together. They've known each other forever. All of a sudden, his partner is handling all the finances because the other guy didn't want to know from it. And once again, catastrophic things happen. Call it fate, call it destiny. I don't know what you call it, but call it something. The other partner that handles all these things, handles all the finances, gets in a car accident and is laid up, and now the partner has to come in from out of the field, and he's very upset about it at first, and he doesn't understand why we set up the company to be this way, and is now trying to figure out how to navigate this, brings in a third party because he needs help doing this, and realizes he's getting calls. They owe the IRS money, they owe tax. It's a mess, and he's like, whoa, where did this go wrong? And he doesn't have a lot of the documents. A lot of things are missing. It's not even that they've been fudged. The things that you have are fudged, and the things that you don't have, you have no idea where they are. And you have to almost start from scratch and do your own investigation. And a lot of these small business owners, they try to do their own internal investigation because, it's my friend. I don't want to believe that they did this. They just want to throw themselves on the fire. That's the wrong way to go about things. You have to bring in a fresh set of eyes. You have to assemble your team, and we're going to talk about that later. Long story short in this, you handle the finances, it's not my thing. It did become his thing for many years, and ultimately the business did go under because they weren't able to figure out how to come back from this. The guy had embezzled close to $250,000 over the course of 7 years, which in some businesses, it's a drop in the hat. Other businesses, it really can be the nail in the coffin. cheating on you. Another case study. 2 cases, actually. So, a lot of times in a partnership, it's all great, the honeymoon phase, everybody's happy, it's all fine. Nobody signs non-competes, non-disclosures, everything's fine. And then things start going sour. You're having issues with your business partner now. You're having issues with this employee who's maybe contributed a lot of ideas to your business. And you decide to part ways. So, you speak to your attorney and you have them sign a non-compete or maybe a non-disclosure, and we'll talk about 2 different cases where it's both. So the person, let's say your partner signs a non-compete, right? We had a case recently where partners split, they signed a non-compete, everything was nice, everything actually ended very well. And that's what our client said, I'm very surprised this happened to me, this actually ended very well for us. Until this new business popped into town. Now this is a restaurant. They do restaurants. They had very successful, few restaurants. And a new restaurant pops up. And the partner who left was bought out, and that person was going to go into the horizon and into a new forefront and do something different that they've never done before. And that was fine. We signed the non-compete. You're not to work in the restaurant business for 5 years, what have you. And yes, they did sign the one for 5 years. And so they get word of a new restaurant that's opening up, and it looks very similar to the restaurant that they have. And the menu is very similar. And it's just, granted, there's a lot of coffee shops, but when you just have that little hunch where you're just like, the color scheme, or the menu, or that's something that so-and-so would have done. They just had a hunch, and they're just like, no way, there's no way. So we actually had to do an investigation, and they wouldn't let this thing go. We did surveillance, and it turns out he was a silent partner in a new restaurant that had opened up and was working and went against his non-compete. And we gave it to the client, and then they did what they wanted to do with it, and they decided to just move on. It wasn't worth the time, it wasn't worth the energy, and you have that emotional connection. This is my friend, this is my partner. Even when things go sour, sometimes people don't want to pull the trigger, and that's fine, it's their decision, but at least we're finders of the facts. Non-disclosure, another business. They've parted ways and everything's fine, but now they're getting calls from all over town saying that the person that left the business, and they started their own separate businesses, same industry, because they didn't have the non-compete, they just had the non-disclose signed. They're making disparaging remarks, and yet they signed a document saying that they weren't going to do that. Instead of saying, oh, we're really great, this is really great, we do a fine job at what we do, they're saying, well, that other company, they're terrible. Those guys are horrible. They'll ruin everything. Oh, the guy, he's a real schmuck, They'll say that. But so we had to actually do surveillance and figure out what was being said, and actually, send our investigators in wearing different types of equipment, which I'll be showing you shortly, and catch this guy making these disparaging remarks. And now they're trying to work it out. Alrighty. Something doesn't add up. 64% of small businesses have experienced some sort of internal theft, but only 16% have reported it to the police. Why? We're going to get into that later. But it's not like you can just pick up the phone and call and be like, you know what? I think my employees, I don't know what they're doing, but my books aren't right. And you can't do that. You pretty much have to assemble your own case, and we'll talk about that. Once again, the small businesses, they have a family dynamic. And when things go wrong, they often try to handle it internally, but that's not the way to go. You got to bring your forensic accountant in. You have to contact your employment attorney. You have to decide if you're going to hire a private investigative firm. You have to assemble your team of people that are outside of you. You can't talk to your mom or your brother or whoever your family business is. It creates familial strife, and it makes things worse because then people start taking sides and, well, you were always mean to him, and a whole big mess. So you got to bring in your team. Once again, it takes an average of 2 years to detect this. These things go undetected for 2 years. You know how much damage someone can do to you in 2 years? A lot. Oh, you got to start making the calls. You're going to call your employment attorney first. Help you decide what your next steps should be, and not only that, are we going to go the prosecution route? Are we going to go the restitution route? Or are we going to go for both? What are we going to do? Are we going to open this investigation? Are we going to hire outside investigators and forensic accountants, are we going to slide across the documents, the table to the person that has committed these frauds and say, listen, pay up, bud? You're going to do that? Or are you going to choose to go to the route of the DA's office, district attorney, and prosecute them and say, listen, we have it all right here for you in this nice package, and this is what happened, and I want to go after him. He stole $500,000 from my company, stole $1 million, $2 million. So you have to decide. Your employment attorney is the person to help you decide that. They'll tell you if, listen, they stole $20,000 from you. It sucks. It's the worst. But it's going to cost, $20,000 just to retain me, and another $20,000 to maybe retain a forensic accountant, and another this for the private investigator firm. So you probably, you should probably just cut your loss at that point, unless you really, really have a bone to pick with that person. Some people don't care. They just want justice. Nothing wrong with that, though. That's what our system's there for. Forensic accountant, you're going to call your financial detectives who they're going to audit, they're going to investigate, they're going to figure out what the accuracy, if they're even accurate, all these documents that you're looking at. And they're going to be able to prepare these things for an ongoing legal trial, if there is one, or prepare things in a way that can be presented if they decide to go to trial. Sometimes an investigation, we'll do an investigation, just speaking personally, and we'll do an investigation, and we'll have no idea if it's actually going to go to trial or not. But we'll prepare it as if it was. The private investigator. Here we are. So private investigators. A lot of people, they have a guy. Everybody has a guy, right? So, or a gal. Somebody. Everyone has someone. So attorneys, I got a guy I can call. You don't want to hire just one person. You want to hire a private investigative firm. It might be us. It might be another firm, but we're pretty good. You want someone that can do a lot of different things. So you can prepare civil and criminal cases. You can interview witnesses. You've got experience doing that. You can conduct surveillance, and you're very good at conducting surveillance. You can bring in your team and perform prints. If you have to take latent prints of the office, did the person crack the safe? Were they on my computer? Should they have not been there? And you can prove that they were there. Not everybody can do that. Background or impeachment material. If your attorney wants to bring them onto the stand, or if there's a witness, say, from the other side of the team, you might want to know a thing or two about that witness. There might be impeachment material. Is there credibility at stake here? Do they have a series, once again, going to background checks? Do they have a litigious past? Do they have a criminal record? Computer forensics, we're going to talk about that in a minute. GPS vehicle tracking, a lot of times, we do that for corporate fleets or for matrimonial. Executive protection. Have you ruffled feathers and now you need a couple of, strong, capable people by your side to protect you? Sometimes that does happen. TCSM, technical counter surveillance measures, more commonly known as the bug sweep. Yes, it exists, and yes, we do it all the time. Polygraph tests. So the investigative process, what we're going to do, investigative firm, you need to find a firm that's going to obtain the facts, obtain the information to allow you to make an informed decision. They're not going to tell you what to do. They're not going to bully you into, you really should do this surveillance. You really should run background checks on every single person that you ever come into contact with. A lot of firms will try to force your hand to certain things. That's why it's important to have your employment attorney working with you, your forensic accountant. Together, when you work with your team, you assemble the case. Just because you want to know something doesn't mean you need to know something. Doesn't mean it's going to help you. Surveillance. Good old surveillance. Everybody always loves the surveillance. So getting the shot, talking about those, the companies where we had to prove, that the person was going against their non-compete or was saying disparaging remarks going against their non-disclose. We use all sorts of fun devices to try to get the shot, to record the audio. I will say for a minute though, when you're recording audio, you can't just record audio willy-nilly. You can't just mic up a room and just sit there and be like, and I'm gonna get everybody. You have to be a party to the conversation. This depends on your jurisdiction. In New York, it's a one-party state. So let's say, if I'm the investigator, I'm having a conversation with Joe Schmo, the guy who's making disparaging comments, and I'm playing the role of super of a building. Whatever, that was the first one I came up with. So I'm the super of the building, and I'm Joe Schmo, talking to Joe Schmo, and I'm the investigator. I'm wired up now with, let's see, I could have a button cam. I don't have any buttons on today. Could have a pen cam in my lapel over there. I don't have a lapel either. I could be wearing a hat. hat cam. You can customize the hats to put your brand on it. So if you're, if you're at the Hippodrome building, you can now customize. Now you have your Hippodrome hat, you have a camera right into it. You will not find the lens. You could even have like keys. Anyone have keys on them? Drive a car? I know it's the city, but still, I'm sure some of you have cars. You have a key fob, and it can actually work to unlock your car, and it records audio video. So, yeah. So what we will do is try to get the shot any ways necessary. We have Bluetooth devices that can go in your ear. We even have, not like this is a poor example of a Starbucks cup, but we have reusable mugs that actually have a black line in it that have a camera inside, and you can actually drink from it. I mean, it's an actual waterproof mug. It's actually dishwasher safe, believe it or not. Technology, right? Why surveillance? Some people think, oh, in this day and age, why do you even need surveillance? You don't need the gumshoes anymore. Not true. You want to know why? Because a picture's worth 1,000 words. When you bring somebody in and you say, I know that you stole it, I know that you're going against me, I know that you're competing with us, I got you on tape. They're gonna just, that's it. When they see their mug on there, they're just, that's it, we're done. A lot of times they'll say, okay, my hands up, I surrender, we're done, wave the white flag. If you're going to court, the judge is not gonna like to see these things, okay? If it's a trial, the jury's not gonna want to see these things really stick out to people. So, why can't you just say to your cousin Joey, hey Joey, I want you to go follow that guy, and I want you to see if he's going into that restaurant or doing whatever, because it has to be court admissible evidence. Once again, if you're gonna do an investigation, do it once, do it right the first time, and you have to make sure it's gonna be court admissible. You have to make sure your video has the time and date embedded into it. You have to make sure you have investigators that are able to testify on the stand. Do you really want your cousin on the stand? I don't think so. I wouldn't want my cousin on the stand. All right, so once again, the footage needs to have the correct time and date embedded, and the investigative firm should make copies. And yes, oh, I gave it to the lawyer, DVDs, oh yes, we have copies in our external hard drive or up in the cloud. But you have to retain the actual piece of footage, and a lot of times we record to SD cards now. Most of the devices we use have the micro SD cards. You have to keep those for 7 years in New York State. So that way, if the other side says, you know what, I think they doctored the film, I think they're full of it, and I want to see, we're going to have a third party forensically look at that footage, and we're going to see if it's been doctored. That way we could just say, here you go, there you go, have fun, knock yourself out, because we have nothing to hide. So, surveillance. Speaking of surveillance, I just wanted to illustrate why people do surveillance. I don't have to tell you what's going on here at all. I don't have to tell you a word. You know exactly what's going on, right? Do I have to describe anything? No. So this is actual surveillance footage that we did. It was captured with a Bluetooth earpiece that we had, which goes right in the ear. It actually works as an earpiece. It has a little blue flashing light, hooks up to the cell phone. You could take calls in it. It's very cool. That's why I see a lot of interesting faces now. Got a lot of these going on. That's why surveillance works. That's why I don't care how advanced and technologically savvy you are, there's always going to be a place for the gumshoes, because surveillance like that, and this is just a quick little clip, but when it comes to non-competes, non-disclosures, I thought it'd be a little bit more salacious to use this piece of footage rather than some guy walking into a meeting with his briefcase who he's not supposed to be meeting with. It shows what's going on. CCTV installation. Now, a lot of times we find that installing cameras in a business will deter internal theft and help if there's the event of external theft, especially like in the jewelry industry, the diamond district, we're very close to it, why not? A couple of things about that. Some business owners, they want to know what they're saying. Everyone's paranoid now. They want to know what so-and-so's saying. They want to know the audio. You can't have the audio. You're not a party to the conversation. Yes, it's your business, physical business, but what's being said, unless you're in the room, is none of your business. Once again, one-party consent in the state of New York. The employees have to be notified that there are cameras. That being said, you don't have to have the drugstore bodega cameras. We have a lot of really interesting cameras that can be installed that look like an outlet. This is an actual camera. As you can see, it's put right there into the motion sensor, which actually does, it doesn't really stand out at all. They have other ones too that they have a screw in there in the middle, similar to like a light switch like right here. Instead of that little tiny white screw, they'll have a little camera in there. And so that way you don't have to, you can still watch what's going on, but it's nice and hidden. People kind of forget about it, and people do the right thing because they're being watched. So once again, cameras can take the shape of working electrical outlets, iPod docking stations, fire alarms, clocks. I mean, at this point, it's pretty much any object that you can put a tiny little camera in. They are so small. It's like the size of not even a button, but the hole that is in the button. Benefits to this, you can monitor everything that's going on in real time. You can watch it from your iPod, your laptop, your phone. You can go back and forth. And if something does happen, you can easily just download the footage, memorialize it, and call it a day. Technical counter surveillance measures, bug sweeps. A lot of times people will come and call us because their partner is left or they've gone through a big change. And they will feel like somebody's listening to them or they're watching or they're following them. And a lot of times people will put these type of bugs in your businesses, especially your competition, your trade secrets, insider information. We do a lot of sweeps down on Wall Street. So once again, these are all actual cameras. This is a listening device. You could see how big it is, size of my thumbnail. If you had to look around this room and try to find that, you're not going to be able to find it. You have to bring in a crew to do a TCSM to find that bug. And then the question is, now do we open an investigation, try to set up the person who planted that bug, or do we just wipe the area clean and start fresh? You got to interview witnesses. A lot of times attorneys, nothing against attorneys, I love attorneys, attorney will try to do their own investigation and interview a witness. This becomes a problem if the attorney is now called to the stand to try to testify. The attorney can't testify that they interviewed a witness, what the witness said, and then cross-examine themselves in terms of what the witness said if they have to do that. So it's best to hire an investigative firm to interview the witnesses. Did you see so-and-so writing checks? Did you see so-and-so swipe X amount from the petty cash or from the safe? Computer forensics. A lot of times before and after, if somebody leaves, we'll do a computer forensics on a lot of the computers. Spyware, it could take me 2 minutes to install spyware onto a cell phone or a laptop that I have physical access to, or a tablet for that matter. 2 minutes. And that's not an exaggeration, and I'm not boasting. Some people could do it much faster, trust me. Computer forensics. Computer forensics will examine a digital media in a forensically sound manner with the aim of identifying, preserving, recovering, and analyzing data pertaining to legal evidence. And this becomes an issue if someone tries to destroy evidence too, which is spoliation. Spoliation is a big deal. The courts are not very favorable to that. We've had a couple of cases, which I could bore you all day with my stories, I'm sure, where somebody's been court ordered to turn over their computer. We did the computer forensics on it, and we found that the person tried to wipe their computer, moved files, moved it to a certain USB drive or even external hard drive. We could even get the serial number and the make of information of that external hard drive and say, hey, I'd like you to turn over now that external hard drive that you tried to wipe everything clean with. How does computer forensics works? Computer with the information has its hard drive physically removed. We never turn on the computer. We're not sitting there opening and clicking the files, hi, Excel financial spreadsheets, or hi, I'm going to look through your emails. You image the actual hard drive. You take it out, you backdoor it. You don't have to worry about passwords, anything like that. You take the original and you put it into a piece of forensics hardware that is going to copy it to a blank hard drive. So if everybody can see there. So you have the original. Everything that you've ever done on that computer is going to be going into a copy or into the hard drive copy. So pictures, installations. Did you move a bunch of files into external hard drive and then try to wipe the computer? Did you try to do a factory reset on it? Financial documents, anything that's been deleted, anything that's password protected, anything that's hidden, spyware. Is there remote access? We had a client bring a computer to us, and somebody had left the company, partner, and had installed spyware or remote access onto it, and was still able to access the different documents, different files, see emails, see everything that's going on in this business. And luckily she did the forensics because we were able to find that and then wipe it clean. So from the copy, we move it and we actually plug it into a separate computer, clean computer, and you'll have a forensic analyst go ahead and sort through the data, compile a whole report saying, this is what we found. We found that somebody tried to spoliate the evidence and, you know, delete everything, and here are the financial records. Here's the different versions of the financial records that they tried to change. Once again, last thing. I didn't just do this for the holidays, and no, I didn't just do it for Dave's birthday that just passed, and happy birthday. When you're deciding if you're going to go the prosecution method or the restitution method, you have to package your case. If you're going to send it to the DA's office, dear DA, love CMP Group, for example, it's got to be nice, neat, packaged, ready to go, where you just hand it to them and say, here, this is our case, and that's it. And you just hand it to them, and you work with your lawyers to do that. Make sure your case is wrapped and ready for delivery. And that pretty much completes my thing. Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you, everyone, Network, for coming to see me speak. And if you have any questions, I like to think of us as a resource at CMP Group. Any questions about anything, shoot me an email, give me a call. Advice is always free, and you know, I have time, so thank you.
Thank you, Lindsey. That was great.
Thank you.
Excellent. So Lindsey will be here for another half hour, and we have the room for another hour. So by all means, make connections, come up and talk to Lindsey if you have any questions or issues. And thanks for coming.